Welcome to Nusantara Fairy Tales with Heidi, Season 2, and tonight I'll be doing something a little different to my usual format. I'll be reading you the story of Toads and Diamonds by Charles Perrault. Come join me. After a very long absence, I'm finally back. I'm so sorry for not being here as regularly as I was before. Things are, how should I put it? Life got in the way. Yes, life got in the way and I was busy doing other things, which at the moment take priority. But the important thing is I'm back. You can't see my face, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but at least you can hear my voice and listen to my stories once more. So I wanted to try doing an audio recording of these stories to see how you like it. So we'll start with a short fairy tale which I referred to in the last episode, episode 37, which was the Thai story of Pikol Tong. I'll put a link down below if you want to watch that episode. Now, this story, Pikol Tong, has some similarities with Bawang Putih, Bawang Merah, and the Magic Pumpkin, except that instead of jewels and snakes emerging out of pumpkins, these things come out of the two sisters' mouths, which is kind of cool, don't you think? Well, I think it's cool. Now, I mentioned that there are two stories which are quite familiar with this one, with Pikol Tong. The first one is a Grimm's tale called The Three Little Men in the Woods. And the second one is by Charles Perrault called Toads and Diamonds. I found the latter story the other day whilst perusing my extensive collection of fairy tale books. I found it in, it's called The Blue Fairy Book by Andrew Lang, who is a Scottish writer, poet, and collector of fairy tales, like me. He and his wife collected and rewrote many fairy tales and arranged them in color-coded books. So there are, I think, around 14 colored books, if I'm not mistaken. I only have 3, the red, blue, and green, and that reminds me I need to get the other books. Anyway, this book was first published in 1889. The story is in the public domain, so let me now read you the story of Toads and Diamonds by Charles Perrault. There was once upon a time a widow who had 2 daughters. The eldest was so much like her in the face and humor that whoever looked upon the daughter saw the mother. They were both so disagreeable and so proud that there was no living with them. The youngest, who was the very picture of her father for courtesy and sweetness of temper, was withal one of the most beautiful girls ever seen. As people naturally love their own likeness, this mother even doted on her eldest daughter and at the same time had a horrible aversion for the youngest. She made her eat in the kitchen and work continually. Among other things, this poor child was forced twice a day to draw water above 1.5 miles off the house and bring home a pitcher full of it. One day, as she was at this fountain, there came to her a poor woman who begged of her to let her drink. "Oh, with all my heart, goody," said this pretty little girl, and rinsing immediately the pitcher, she took up some water from the clearest place of the fountain and gave it to her, holding up the pitcher all the while that she might drink the easier. The good woman, having drunk, said to her, "You are so very pretty, my dear, so good and so mannerly, that I cannot help giving you a gift." For this was a fairy who had taken the form of a poor country woman to see how far the civility and good manners of this pretty girl would go. "I will give you for gift," continued the fairy, "that at every word you speak there shall come out of your mouth either a flower or a jewel." When this pretty girl came home, her mother scolded at her for staying so long at the fountain. "I beg your pardon, mamma," said the poor girl, "for not making more haste." And in speaking these words, there came out of her mouth 2 roses, 2 pearls, and 2 diamonds. "What is it I see there?" said her mother, quite astonished. "I think I see pearls and diamonds come out of the girl's mouth. How happens this, child?" This was the first time she ever called her child. The poor creature told her frankly all the matter, not without dropping out infinite numbers of diamonds. "In good faith," cried the mother, "I must send my child thither. Come hither, Fanny. Look what comes out of thy sister's mouth when she speaks. Wouldst not thou be glad, my dear, to have the same gift given to thee? Thou hast nothing else to do but go and draw water out of the fountain, and when a certain poor woman asks you to let her drink, to give it to her civilly." "It would be a very fine sight indeed," said this ill-bred minx, "to let me go draw water." "You shall go, hussy," said the mother, "and this minute." So away she went, but grumbling all the way, taking with her the best silver tankard in the house. She was no sooner at the fountain than she saw coming out of the wood a lady most gloriously dressed, who came up to her and asked to drink. This was, you must know, the very fairy who appeared to her sister, but had now taken the air and dress of a princess, to see how far this girl's rudeness would go. "Am I come hither," said the proud saucy slut, "to serve you with water, pray? I suppose the silver tankard was brought purely for your ladyship, was it? However, you may drink out of it if you have a fancy." "You are not over and above mannerly," answered the fairy, without putting herself in a passion. "Well then, since you have so little breeding and are so disobliging, I give you for gift that every word you speak there shall come out of your mouth a snake or a toad." So soon as her mother saw her coming, she cried out, "Well, daughter?" "Well, mother?" answered the pert hussy, throwing out of her mouth 2 vipers and 2 toads. "Oh, mercy!" cried the mother. "What is it I see? Oh, it is that wretch, her sister, who has occasioned all this. But she shall pay for it." And immediately she ran to beat her. The poor child fled away from her and went to hide herself in the forest not far from thence. The king's son then on his return from hunting met her, and seeing her so very pretty, asked her what she did there alone and why she cried. "Alas, sir, my mamma has turned me out of doors." The king's son, who saw 5 or 6 pearls and as many diamonds come out of her mouth, desired her to tell him how that happened. She, hereupon, told him the whole story, and so the king's son fell in love with her, and considering with himself that such a gift was worth more than any marriage portion, conducted her to the palace of the king, his father, and there married her. As for the sister, she made herself so much hated that her own mother turned her off, and the miserable wretch, having wandered about a good while, without finding anybody to take her in, went to a corner of the wood, and there died. The end. And that is the story of Toads and Diamonds by Charles Perrault, which is contained in the Blue Fairy book, edited by Andrew Lang. Do let me know what you think of the story in the comments below. Also, let me know your thoughts about this new audio format. Do you like it? Do you hate it? What are your thoughts? If you like this episode and want to hear more, please do consider liking and subscribing to my channel, Nusantara Fairy Tales with Heidi, and I shall see you in the next